The very first question in chapter 2 was, how does the brain learn motor skills in the golf swing? So if you read that, you realize that for an adult golfer to go to a driving range to hit balls, proposedly to create a golf swing and put it in motor memory, that doesn't work for the adult golfer. Now, every once in a while, there's always an exception to the rule. So I'm being general about this. I'm talking about most adult golfers, including myself. I did not develop my swing from going to the range and hitting balls. So this does not mean that you can avoid hitting golf balls if you want to be a good golfer. Even teen golfers have to go to the driving range to hit balls. And if you want to play well, you've got to develop hand-eye coordination. Now, in this instance, hand-eye coordination is your ability to swing the club and hit the ball on the sweet spot the majority of the time. There is no shortcut for this. So you can only do this by hitting golf balls. You can't do this like the other drills you can do at home in my program. So when you can hit the majority of your shots on the sweet spot with all your clubs, you'll shoot in the 60s and 70s, and your friends will call you a great ball striker. Now, most of you, when you're having a bad day and you're not swinging the club well and you're not hitting the ball well, you will try to manipulate the club with your hands and your arms. And this requires that you use swing thoughts to do that. This is the worst possible thing you can do for consistency in your swing. Swing thoughts interfere with your brain's ability to retrieve motor memory. So swing thought and motor memory, they're fighting each other for control of your club, and it will go all kinds of places. Even with a bad swing, if you will stop having swing thoughts, you will swing the club in the same place the majority of the time. If your swing is consistent all the time, I'm going to give you a simple adjustment to be able to hit the ball on the sweet spot the majority of the time. But first, you got to figure out where your body is swinging the club. And second, you got to be able to feel where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club. These two things have to happen simultaneously. So how do you figure out where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club? Well, it depends on your skill level. There's a couple different ways to do this. Now, when I play 18 holes, I'm usually shooting in the mid to high 70s. So it's easy for me to tell where I'm hitting the ball on the face of the club because of the vibration I have in the grip. So for each spot that I hit up here, there's a different feeling for that. So when I hit the sweet spot, there's no vibration whatsoever, whether I'm hitting a wood, an iron, or my putter. I can even tell you where I'm hitting the ball on the face of the club within a quarter of an inch. Now, most of you guys shooting in the 80s and 90s, you may not have been paying attention to this vibration you feel when you miss these shots. But this vibration is your key element in you being able to figure out how to find your swing. So instead of it being annoying for you, you need to look at this as a tool. So the main reason you're not able to get more information back from the club is your grip is too tight. When you grip the club too tight, you have a lot less feel. So you got to get a grip, but you got to get a soft grip. So how do you figure out if your grip is too tight? Very easy way. You got to swing the club and you got to make a full swing. So if you're inside, you need to go outside, go do that. Take your driver. You need to make the same swing that you would make if you're hitting the ball on the first tee. Make that full swing. When the head of the club gets to the bottom of your swing, it has to get heavy. If you can't feel it get heavy, your grip is too tight. So on the next swing, you want to swing 3/4 speed and soften the grip some. If you can't feel it, swing it again, soften it up more. We've already been through this grip pressure thing. You've seen me swing the club with 2 fingers. So you know that you don't need all this grip pressure in order to have a good swing. It isn't necessary. It's a reflex from your brain. So if you're at the driving range, the time you really start to pay attention to your grip pressure is after you've hit the first 20 balls. Remember, the first 20 balls, I'm telling you, don't pay attention to anything. You just loosen your body up. But when you get out of that sand wedge and you've already hit your 5 balls easy and you're ready to hit your 5 balls full swing, that's when you have to pay attention to your grip pressure, because I'm also telling you, pay attention to where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club. So you've got to get a soft grip to be able to get information back to your brain from the club and through your hands. Without you being able to feel this, you cannot find your swing. Here's some general information about how to tell where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club. Those of you that have been playing for a while and are better golfers, you're going to know this already, but you got to remember this program is not just for you, it's also for beginners. So, if you hit the ball out here in the toe of the driver, it's going to turn the club in your hand this direction, and the golf ball is literally going to go off in that direction. If you hit the ball down here in the heel, the club is going to turn this way, and the ball is going to go to the left. If you get under the ball, let's say the golf ball is up here and you swing under it, it'll pop up straight in the air. If you hit it thin, when the golf ball is down here, it will dribble off the tee. So the direction the ball is going is also a clue of where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club. Now I'm going to give you some specifics so you'll know exactly where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club. This is impact tape, and this is how you're going to be able to figure out exactly where you're hitting the ball on the face of the club. It's basically carbon paper with some glue on the back of it. It's got some numbers on it. It's got a circle in the middle of it, and you stick this right on the middle of your driver face like so. You can buy this in golf shops, not pro shops, but golf shops. Most pro shops will not carry this. You can get it with tape that goes on your driver. You can also get it with tape that goes on your irons. Now, I've got a piece of tape on this driver from the last round I played, and you can see that out of these 14 shots, only 3 of them are missing the sweet spot. So that was a pretty good round for me. I shot a 78 on that day. So once you put this tape on here, and once you start to hit balls, every time you hit a ball, it's going to leave a mark, about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. That tells you exactly where you're swinging the club in relationship to where you're aiming the club. And we're going to assume that you're aiming, you've got the golf ball directly in the middle of the club when you're getting ready to hit it. So now you don't want to manipulate this club, because that means you have to use swing thoughts. You've got to figure out where you're swinging the club, and this is how you do it. So hopefully, if you hit 5 balls after you put this tape on here, and again, this is after you've gone through your warm-up routine and after you've hit 40 shots. Once you have done this, this gives you the information you need to know about where you're swinging the club in relationship to where you're actually aiming the club. So now we're going to take that information. That's how you find your swing. With that information, we're going to be able to use that so you can find the sweet spot on the club without using any mechanical moves, without any swing thoughts. And that's how you're going to be able to hit the ball more consistently. So let's get to that aspect of finding your swing, and that is finding the sweet spot. So in this process of finding your swing, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to find the distance that you're swinging the club in relationship to how far away you're standing from the ball. So the issue is always, from one day to the next, you're not always positioning the club in the same place. So this allows you to figure out on the day that you're playing or the day you're hitting balls how to hit the sweet spot, even though you've changed the distance you're standing from the ball. Now, most of you have a tendency to walk up to the ball, get in your stance, and then you'll put the club behind the ball. That's not a consistent way to figure out how to do that, because on one ball you may be like this, and the next time you get up to it you may be reaching for it. So here's how you start off with. This is how you can consistently have the proper distance from the ball, and it's not the same for everybody. So this is using your body. Put the club behind the ball first. Put the center of the club right behind the golf ball. Then get into your stance. And now what you got to do is you got to gauge where your hands are. Your arms should be hanging. They shouldn't be standing up like this. You don't want them to go down here. They should just be hanging from your shoulder. So the posture you use, all of this gets registered in your brain as position memory. It's not the same as motor memory, because that's about moving things. Position memory is about your brain storing and retrieving information concerning where your body parts are, and that includes your stance and your posture. So this is a more consistent way to have a consistent distance between you and the golf ball. And from day to day, it may change. One day you may be up here, one day maybe we're comfortable down there. Doesn't make any difference. Put the club behind the ball first, and then get into your stance. Now I'm going to zoom in so we can see how to make adjustments so you can hit the sweet spot on the club with the stance that you're using on any given day. We've got to make an adjustment here. If I use this golf ball, once I put the club behind it, you can't see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a salt shaker instead of the golf ball. You've got to put some impact tape on your club face. This does not work without that. Some of you may be accustomed to standing at the ball and putting your club out here or back here. But in order to get a baseline for this, let's don't do that. Let's start with the club directly behind the golf ball. So you want your sweet spot lined up right behind the golf ball. Get in your stance. But let's say that when you first start hitting balls, you notice you're not actually hitting it where you aim it. You're hitting the ball on the heel. You're aiming it here, but you're hitting it here. How do you fix that? Well, what's happening is you're swinging the club farther away from you than you're actually standing. So for the fix for that is to stand farther away from the ball. So look at your feet. Look at the club face first. See how far off that ball hit that you made is from the sweet spot. So let's say it's an inch off. You're aiming it here, but you're swinging it an inch over here. If it's an inch off, look at your feet, 1 foot at a time, kind of zigzag that, bring that back an inch, go to the left foot, bring that back. If you're swinging it farther away, you've got to stand farther away. Now when you do that, you don't aim the club here. Remember, you're already swinging it farther away. So now you've got to aim the club appropriately to where you're standing. Now, you aim it here, but when you actually hit the golf ball, you're hitting it on the sweet spot. So the fix is, if you are swinging the club farther away than you're hitting it, you have to stand farther away, and your club's going to be aimed on this side. Let's say you're doing the opposite. Let's say you're lined up here, but when you actually hit the ball, you're hitting it on the toe. So what's happening is you're aiming it here, but you're swinging the club closer to your feet than you're actually aiming it. What's the fix? Get in your normal stance, stand closer. Let's say on this particular shot that you've only missed the sweet spot 3/4 of an inch and you're missing it out on the toe. So you've got to look at your feet. And now you've got to stand closer to the ball 3/4 of an inch. So you kind of gradually wiggle this up 3/4 of an inch, and you wiggle this one up. I say do it this way instead of doing that because this usually moves much farther than 1 inch. So now that you're hitting on the toe, now you're going to be standing closer to the ball. So you've got to aim here. Again, you're trying to aim, you want to sit your club down at the same distance from your feet every time that you're hitting the ball. So by aiming it here, because you're swinging it closer, when you actually hit the ball, you're going to hit it in the sweet spot. So if you're swinging it farther away, you stand farther away. If you're swinging the club closer, you got to stand closer. It's a very simple fix, and this allows you to not have any swing thoughts or try to do anything mechanical to fix this. If you've got a consistent swing, this is all you need to do to hit the ball consistently. Now we're going to talk about what happens when you hit the ball thin and when you hit it fat. There are several different fixes for this. So again, this is a quick fix, and again, you're not going to be trying to maneuver the club with your arms and your body. So I've got the ball teed up about 3 inches. This club face is about 2 1/4 inches from the top to the bottom. That's a very large club face. So if you're hitting the ball underneath, let's say you're hitting it fat, and you hit it on the top of the club and the ball's popping straight up in the air, the fix for that is to push the ball down. Start with pushing it down 1 inch. You still want to put it on sit the club on the ground when you are at address. If you're doing the opposite, if you're hitting it thin up here like this, tee the ball up. This is not rocket science. Again, you want to figure out where you're swinging the club and put the golf ball in front of that. Now later on, I'm going to give you better golfers the cause for both of these issues. There are things that these guys can do, because if you're hitting it up here and you hit it down there, your shoulders are not functioning properly. So we're going to get into that later in the program. But for now, tee the ball up higher or tee it down lower to cure your height adjustment problems. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Now your reading tonight is chapter 3, which is Romancing the Brain. Now, romancing the brain is your key to getting your brain's permission to learn a golf swing and put it in motor memory. When you're a teenager, that door is wide open, but as an adult, that door is closed. So if you don't understand how your brain is looking at everything you do, think, feel, eat, you can't understand how to manipulate the brain to allow it to get that door open. So this is a long chapter. I don't expect you to read all of it, but try to get at least 3 pages of it done tonight, and I'll see you soon.